Hello everybody and welcome back to the latest episode of Miami Total Football. We're at Drive Pink Stadium a few hours after Inter Miami suffered yet another defeat at home, this time to DC United by the score of 3-0. And well, it was the same old story that we've heard from Inter Miami, especially in these last few weeks, a poor performance and a frustrating and disappointing defeat. Now, the trouble started fairly early on. In the 15th minute, Ola Kamara scores after Nicolas Figal commits a bad giveaway at the back. And then 6-7 minutes later, Paul Arriola gets on the board and makes it 2-0 with a good finish from a tight angle, beating Christian Makoun to the ball and scoring again off the tight angle. So Inter Miami was in a hole, 2-0 after 21 minutes, and never really looked like getting back into it. It did have one chance from Julian Carranza later in the first half, but he headed it wide of the frame. And again, Inter Miami just overall just did not put forth a very good performance. Not one that you could hang your hat and say, well, at least they played well. They lost, but they played well. No, they didn't even play well in this one. Now, I'll say it wasn't as dreadful, even though the scoreline was a little bit more lopsided. It wasn't as dreadful a performance as we had seen against the Chicago Fire and before that against CF Montreal. But again, a disappointing performance, a frustrating performance, and one that came with boos. Inter Miami fans booed the team during the second half. Fans left the stadium. Some fans started leaving the stadium after the 71st minute goal from Ola Kamara, his second of the night, and there were boos at the final whistle. So clearly fans were frustrated, but like Phil Neville and Lewis Morgan said after the game, they have to look at themselves because this is clearly not good enough.
You know, I said to them at the end, it's tonight's not the night. Going into a 21-day break where we start pointing fingers, we've got to take collective responsibility, myself included, more than anyone. And we've got to make sure that we come back after the break in two important games against DC and Orlando at home, and that we're better, harder to beat, more dogged, more determined, and we eradicate the mistakes that we're making that are costing us goals.
We need to improve all facets of our game, to be honest, at the moment. From back to front, we need to get better in all departments, and we're working tirelessly to do that.
Now, if we're going to talk X's and O's a little bit, I think you have to talk about the formation that Phil Neville went with here. As I had predicted in the pregame, Inter Miami came out with a 3-5-2 formation. They had Nicolas Figal, Ryan Shawcross, and Christian Makoun as the three center backs. Lewis Morgan and Jovan Jones served as the wing backs, and the midfield played in a triangle with Gregori as the 6 and Blaise Matuidi and Victor Ulloa as the 2 8s. Up top, you had Gonzalo Higuain and Julian Carranza. Gonzalo Higuain did serve as a pseudo number 10 at times and did drop a little bit deeper to help pick up the ball and try to create things. But by and large, the performance, the collective and the individual performances were not good enough. And I think at this point, Phil Neville and his coaching staff really need to analyze how they're going about fielding this team. And look, I understand that Phil Neville's probably trying to find the best combination of players and in what system, but I don't think that all this tinkering is helping the squad, because this is not the first time that Phil Neville has changed formations. We've seen this through this first quarter of the season, because now we are 8 games into the 2021 season. That's a quarter of the way, just about. So it's been a recurring theme that we've seen Phil Neville use different looks. You remember the WM formation he used against CF Montreal, for example, when he switched to a box midfield, the 3-2-2-3 or 3-4-3, however you want to designate it. And again, we've seen some of these type of things, and I don't think it's necessarily helping the players all that much. I won't say that that is the only reason that the team is struggling. Of course not. There are a lot of factors for why the team is struggling, but it is one of the reasons. And that's something that, again, Inter Miami has 21 days from now until its next game because of the upcoming international FIFA window. So there will be some time to really analyze that, and I think maybe going back to the 4-2-3-1 might be the best solution. It's good to have different formations and different options available in your toolbox, but when you're tinkering this much, it might be limiting how comfortable the players feel and whether they can perform. And look, Phil Neville didn't talk about the formation, or he wasn't asked about the formation and his tactics after the game, but he did take responsibility. He did mostly look at himself. He did touch on the individual errors without naming names, but he did mostly say that he's responsible for what's happening on the field.
Ultimately, the buck stops with me. The buck stops with me in terms of sort of like, that is my team out there, and we play together. We win and lose together. And ultimately, this moment in time, we are suffering, and we're suffering a lot, and we're frustrated with what is happened in the last 3 or 4 games. But ultimately, now's not the time, 9 games into the season, to start pointing fingers at individuals. We've got to be better as a collective unit. We've got to make sure that we play better. And that's the way it has to be.
As for what I think about the overall state of the team, I think the team is in a pretty bad spot right now. Confidence is low. Body language between players isn't necessarily a bright spot. Doesn't read well, at least to me. If you look at the third goal, Ola Kamara's second of the night in the 71st minute, the team looks outright defeated there. The game was 2-0. It's still in the balance technically. They could still get into it with a couple of late goals, but they just look so defeated. And DC United had 3 on 5, so that's a numerical advantage for the defense, and yet the numbers don't get back, and players just don't have this sense of urgency, and they just get beat with a great cross from Paul Arriola and a good header from Ola Kamara. But when you have 3 on 5, your defense should be able to put out that fire, and they don't. And you can just see that the team's just so low on confidence right now. At least that's my opinion. I think that the team needs a win in a bad way, but not sure how they're going to go about that, because right now nothing seems to really be working. Now, if there was one bright spot in this one, it would be La Familia, the 3 supporters groups, Vice City, the Southern Legion, and the Siege, all represented from minute 1 to minute 90. They made their presence felt again, something that we've seen for the course of the entire season, at home games, at away games. They represented. If the team could play with that type of passion, I think Inter Miami would be way better off, because the festivity started even before kickoff. I was able to take in some of the pregame tailgate and the march to the match, and the fans were just bringing it, and they brought it over the course of the 90 minutes. Even when the score was 2-0, even when the score was 3-0, they never stayed quiet. They kept chanting and supporting the team, though they did voice their displeasure with the performance, and you could see that the continued disappointing showings and games are starting to wear thin on the fans, because like I mentioned earlier, fans began to boo throughout the second half. Maybe even towards the end of the first half, fans began to boo, and fans started to leave after that third goal in the 71st minute. They started going for the exits, and you started to hear a little bit more boos, and you heard a loud chorus of boos at the full-time whistle. And obviously, that just paints the picture of what Inter Miami is right now. And they're not a team that's living up to expectations. You hear of teams in sports that are better than the sum of their parts, but Inter Miami is the complete opposite of that, in my opinion. They on paper, they should have a team that's very competitive. They have some big name DPs, some star power, but they just don't piece it together consistently enough, and they're weaker than the sum of their parts. They should be better than they are, but they're not doing it, and fans let that be known during the course of the game and at the end of the game. And for co-owner Jorge Mas, who was in attendance, that surely cannot be a good sign, because seeing fans leave the game and seeing and hearing fans boo is probably not what he had in mind when he put in so much money to invest in this team that he surely wants to be a championship contender. So we'll see how Inter Miami tries to turn it around, because you the fans, do deserve better. Again, the pregame tailgate was a lot of fun. Fans brought it and had a good time. Hopefully that continues to be the case, especially for the next home game, the Sunshine Classico against Orlando City. I have no doubt that La Familia will continue to bring it, but hopefully the team can match that with you guys as well.
At the moment, the best thing, and we need to start repaying that, because they turn out again in their numbers tonight, and they've always got our back, and it's tough when you're not cheering a team that's winning at home.
Now, one last thing that I will touch on in this one, or from this weekend, is that Matuidi Gate is now over. The investigation was closed on Friday by MLS, and it announced its findings, and the findings were pretty severe, the biggest sanctions that have ever come in MLS. Now, there's a lot to dissect there. I should probably do another video, and I probably will do another video dissecting what it all means, but by and large, Inter Miami got the hammer hit over it pretty hard, because clearly they broke a lot of rules. And Paul McDonough, the former sporting director, seems like he really left a mess for Inter Miami to clean up, because not only was Blaise Matuidi supposed to be a DP and giving Inter Miami 4, but so too was Andres Reyes. That means 5 DPs. Inter Miami had 5 DPs last year on its roster, and clearly that is not allowed in MLS. Also, 3 other players, Leandro Gonzalez-Pires, Nicolas Figal, and Julian Carranza, had underreported salaries due to undisclosed agreements. Don't know what that means, but due to undisclosed agreements, they had underreported salaries on the books last year. So Inter Miami will lose target allocation money in the next 2 years, and they've been fined a pretty hefty amount. Paul McDonough has also been suspended from the league through the 2022 season, although Atlanta United has parted ways with him as well. Sources have told me that they let him go, but the official announcement was that they parted ways. But by and large, this has been a microcosm, or symbolic, of what Inter Miami has been from the start up until now. Just a big mess, a big unorganized mess, because the team is not performing. They're having drama off the field. This is nowhere near the team that was promised to fans a while ago, or years ago, when this team was coming into fruition. It was promised a team of stars, a team that would win, a team that would compete for titles, and right now, a year and change, you don't have that. You have a team that's losing to the lower half teams of the Eastern Conference, teams that are in bad ways, and before they face Inter Miami, and then when they face Inter Miami, they win. So and they perform well. It's like playing Inter Miami is a remedy right now for any team that's going through it. So this is not the team that people envisioned. This is not the team that was constructed. Obviously, what Paul McDonough had constructed here is a mess, and that's going to take some time to work its way out of, especially now with some limitations going forward. But still, this team should be better than it is right now, and you guys do deserve better. I will reiterate that, because this is not the team that people expected. I can't imagine Jorge Mas, when he put in the money and was making these signings, he said, okay, well, we're going to have a team that's in 11th place in the Eastern Conference, losing 3-0 at home to a struggling DC United team, or losing to CF Montreal with a poor performance, or losing on the road to the Chicago Fire 1-0 with another terrible performance. So we'll see what Inter Miami does. They have a lot of things to correct, a lot of things to address, and they know that.
So that was not something that we spoke about that much, or can use as an excuse tonight. The team were focused. The team were focused to go out there and put on a performance for the fans in a packed out stadium here at the arena. So and we didn't do that, and that's the biggest disappointment.
But that about does it for now. What did you think of Inter Miami's 3-0 loss to DC United? Were you in the house? What did you think of the atmosphere and the environment? What did you think of the performance? Do you agree with me that Phil Neville should probably start tinkering with the formations, maybe stick to 1 or 2 formations to give the players some familiarity and some level of comfort there? Let me know in the comments section below. And as always, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'm Franco Paniza of Miami Total Football, and we'll see you guys again real soon.